What do you get when a 7'3" sniper joins Trae Young in Atlanta? Boston ditches $180 million in tax, and Brooklyn hoards 5 first-round picks. This wasn't just a trade, it was a chess move from 3 teams trying to rewrite their futures overnight. Let's break it down, because this wasn't your average who-got-what deal. The Atlanta Hawks walked away with the headliner, Kristaps Porzingis, a 7'3" unicorn who can splash threes, swat shots, and force defenders to stretch out to the perimeter like they're guarding Steph Curry in a big man's body. Alongside him, they got a 2nd-round pick, just a sweetener. But the real play, they now have a front-court threat to pair with Trae Young that could completely rewire how teams defend Atlanta. Meanwhile, the Celtics flipped the script. After betting on Porzingis just a year ago, they suddenly hit the eject button. Why? Not because of talent. Porzingis was cooking when healthy, but his contract, $30.7 million, was dragging Boston toward the NBA's dreaded second tax apron, which comes with brutal penalties, loss of flexibility, frozen picks, and a boatload of tax payments. So Boston cut the cord. They brought in Georges Niang, a solid role player on a fraction of the cost, and a 2nd-round pick, clearing tens of millions off their books in the process. But the Brooklyn Nets might have played the smartest long game. They took on Terrence Mann and the Hawks' number 22 pick, adding to a stash that now includes 5 first-rounders, 8, 19, 22, 26, and 27. That's not a rebuild. That's an arsenal. Brooklyn didn't chase stars. They chased leverage. So when fans saw the alert, 3-team deal Porzingis to Atlanta, most missed what it really was. A financial escape plan for Boston, a pick heist for Brooklyn, and a high-stakes bet for Atlanta. And what comes next could flip the East upside down. Atlanta isn't just betting on talent, they're betting on timing, desperation, and the hope that lightning will finally strike. Kristaps Porzingis has always been a what-if. What if his knees held up? What if he had the right teammates? What if he could stay healthy just long enough to dominate a full season? At 7'3" with guard-like shooting and elite shot-blocking instincts, his potential has never been the question. The real issue, consistency, and his health has betrayed him more often than not. Last year in Boston, he showed flashes of being that guy. He shot over 40% from 3, averaged nearly 2 blocks per game, and looked like the perfect stretch 5 for a championship team. But just as the Celtics ramped up for a playoff run, Kristaps went down again. Ankle surgery followed by an unexplained illness that left him looking like a shell of himself in the postseason. That playoff collapse wasn't just a fluke, it was the latest chapter in a story that's become all too familiar. Still, the Hawks are choosing to ignore the red flags. Or maybe, they see them and just don't care. Because for them, the upside is too big to pass up. This is a team that's been stuck in NBA purgatory. Never quite bad enough to blow it up, but never good enough to make a real playoff run. They've tried building around Trae Young, but the roster always felt one piece short. Capella was solid but limited. The spacing was tight. The defense, bottom third. Now Porzingis gives them a weapon that changes everything. He'll stretch defenses to the perimeter, giving Trae more space to drive and dish. He'll block shots on the other end, giving them a rim presence they've lacked since prime Al Horford. And in transition, he's the kind of big who can trail the play and still knock down a 27-footer like it's nothing. But there sits risk in every direction. Porzingis is on a 1-year $30.7 million expiring deal. If he gets hurt, or worse, underperforms, it could all implode. The Hawks don't have the cap room to retool quickly. They're betting this move jumpstarts a playoff run that makes Atlanta relevant again and buys them time to convince Porzingis to stay long-term. It's not just about Porzingis, though. This is a culture shift. The Hawks are signaling they're done playing small, done being passive, done waiting. This move says we're tired of being forgotten. It's loud, it's risky, and it might be their only shot to make noise in an Eastern Conference that just keeps getting deeper. But while Atlanta was lighting the fuse, Boston was quietly cutting the wire. On the surface, trading away Kristaps Porzingis looks like a massive step backward for the Celtics. Just last season, he was a core piece in their title push. He gave them size, shooting, rim protection, everything a modern contender needs. But beneath the surface, this wasn't about basketball. This was about survival. The Celtics were staring down the barrel of the NBA's new second tax apron, a brutal financial punishment zone for teams with bloated payrolls. Go past that line, and things get ugly fast. You lose access to key roster tools, can't sign mid-level exceptions, can't trade for players making more than what you send out, and eventually, your flexibility dies. The league made it clear, spend like the Warriors used to, and you'll pay a steep price. And Boston? They were about to pay nearly $180 million in tax penalties just to keep things as they were. So what did they do? They cut the cord. Fast. By flipping Porzingis for Georges Niang, a solid stretch four making under $9 million, the Celtics shed over $20 million in salary instantly. That move alone might have saved them over $100 million when the tax math is all said and done, and they got a second-rounder to sweeten the deal. It's not flashy, but it's strategic. Niang won't give you what Porzingis did on the court, but he doesn't have to. Boston is betting on the long game. Shedding salary now means they can retool later without being handcuffed. It also suggests something deeper. They might not be done. Tatum's injury has changed their timeline. With Jaylen Brown's supermax already in play, Boston has to decide whether to double down on a roster that nearly won it all or pivot before the financial trap closes. And this move, it looks a lot like a pivot. They sacrifice short-term firepower for long-term flexibility. It's a quiet reset, one that could either open the door to new opportunities or slam it shut on their championship window. And while Boston's front office was playing financial Tetris, Brooklyn was playing the long con. The Nets didn't grab headlines in this deal. No blockbuster names, no flashy all-star arrivals, just Terrence Mann and the number 22 pick. But don't let the quiet tone fool you. Brooklyn might have walked away as the real winners. Let's break it down. Terrence Mann is a gritty, versatile guard who can defend multiple positions, knock down timely shots, and brings playoff experience from his Clippers days. He won't fill seats, but he fits. And the number 22 pick. It's not top 10, but in a draft class that's loaded with solid role players, it adds depth to Brooklyn's war chest. Here's where it gets wild. With this move, the Nets now hold 5 first-round picks in the upcoming draft: 8, 19, 22, 26, and 27. That's not a rebuild. That's a full-on stockpile. They can draft 5 rookies and let them develop. Or they can bundle those picks and trade up, swing for a star, or poach a frustrated veteran from a team stuck in cap jail. It sits flexibility most teams would kill for. And they got it without giving up anything major. No cornerstone player, no future picks, just smart maneuvering and a little cap space magic. Remember, Brooklyn's been here before. They got burned once trying to shortcut a rebuild. They're not making that mistake again. This time they're letting the pieces come to them. So while Atlanta sips betting on fragile talent, and Boston sits escaping a financial storm, Brooklyn is slowly building something dangerous. And as the dust settled on the deal, one name stood at the center of it all: Kristaps Porzingis. And his future? Still filled with question marks. Kristaps Porzingis has always been the NBA's mystery box. You know what's inside could be amazing, but opening it feels like a risk every single time. When he entered the league, he was hyped as the unicorn, a one-of-one prototype who could defend the rim and shoot like a guard, and for stretches, he lived up to it. But over the years, that hype has turned into something else: concern, caution, even frustration. His career has been riddled with injuries: torn ACLs, knee soreness, foot problems, back tightness. Just last year, he missed huge chunks of the season, and when the Celtics needed him most in the playoffs, he was either sidelined or ineffective. A mysterious virus reportedly sapped his energy. Some nights he barely looked like himself. But when he sits on, it's undeniable. In limited games last season, he averaged 20.1 points, 7.2 rebounds, and 1.8 blocks, all while hitting 41% from deep. That kind of efficiency at his size is insane. You can count on one hand how many players in the league can do that. And that sips why Atlanta rolled the dice. They didn't trade for Kristaps Porzingis, the person. They traded for the idea of him, the version who plays 60-plus games, knocks down clutch shots, and anchors a top 10 defense. The problem? That version hasn't consistently existed since his All-Star year in New York. Add to that, he's on an expiring deal. 1 year, $30.7 million. If he pops off, great, you made a splash. But if he gets hurt again, or flames out, you just burned a premium slot in your salary sheet and possibly derailed your season. The Hawks are treating this like a playoff push, but Porzingis is treating it like a prove-it year. His next contract and his entire legacy might ride on this season. That kind of pressure can create diamonds, but sometimes it cracks the foundation. And while Porzingis has everything to gain, the fans had everything to say. 3 teams, 1 deal, and completely different agendas. The Hawks are going all in, rolling the dice on a towering talent who's as risky as he is rare. For them, it's now or never. Porzingis doesn't just stretch the floor, he stretches the patience of any franchise that dares to believe he can stay healthy. But if he does, Atlanta just became a real problem in the East. The Celtics played it cold and calculated. They gave up star power, but gained financial freedom. This wasn't a panic move, it was a setup. And if they make the right next step, no one will remember who they lost, only what they win. And Brooklyn, they didn't chase the spotlight. They just quietly loaded the clip with picks, players, and possibilities. They're not building for headlines, they're building for control. This trade wasn't loud, it wasn't flashy, but it was a signal. The Eastern Conference is shifting, and this deal might be the first tremor. Now the only question is, which one of these teams just made the smartest mistake of the summer?